The thing about stories is that we can analyze the symbology and themes, we can dissect the secret hidden meaning, we can discuss the political allegory, but we don't have to. We can ignore all of that. But there are other elements to the story that we can't ignore. Elements that require no deeper analysis, narrative beats that resonate in our bones. Today, we are going head empty, all feelings. We are talking about catharsis. Hi, my name is Tim. I write for television. Today we are talking about catharsis. What is it? How does it work? And how do you generate it? When you're defining a storytelling tool like this, I think it's sometimes helpful to think of it like a clock. The audience sees the hands and the numbers, but behind the scene there's an elaborate and very specific mechanical process that creates the audience experience. So for the audience looking at the front of the clock, catharsis is the moment where anticipation turns into emotion. Something you were looking forward to finally happens or is cruelly ripped away from you. Or something you were dreading finally happens or is avoided at the last moment. The emotions we feel during catharsis are not always good, but they are usually strong. Now, let's take a look behind the clock at the gears and see how catharsis is constructed by a storyteller. The simplest definition of catharsis is that it's when a conflict is resolved. And that's it. I know, it seems simple. It's deceptive in that way. But the word resolve is doing some heavy lifting. What does it mean to resolve a conflict? It's not just about removing an obstacle. If a movie about stopping an asteroid from hitting the Earth ended with the main characters discovering that a completely different team they didn't know about went up and solved the asteroid problem, that would not feel cathartic because that conflict was not resolved. Instead, the obstacle was removed. To explain this, I'm going to have to talk about chemistry. No, not that kind of chemistry. I'm talking about chemicals. Sometimes a molecule is unstable. The molecule is missing some element that would make it stable, and when that molecule comes into contact with certain other molecules, they take pieces from it to make them stable. And in the process of extracting those pieces, they generate energy. This is how dynamite works. It's kind of like stretching out a band. The more you stretch it out, the more potential energy it has. It wants to be released, and when you finally do release it, you get kinetic energy. This is how music works too. There are stable chords, the root of the scale. And the more you move around, the further you get from the root chord, the more tension the audience feels, because they know what the root chord is. They know deep down that this is supposed to resolve, and they are eager to hear it happen. And when it finally does, it releases this feeling in the audience, like a band snapping, or an explosion. Which brings us back to catharsis in storytelling. Think of the resolution to the story like the one chord, the starting position. The audience has a feeling of it. They know what it looks like. And the more the story moves away from that happy ending, the more tense they get. So if every beat of the movie moves them further and further away from that root chord, then when it all suddenly snaps back at the end, they will feel a tremendous sense of satisfaction.
Mission accomplished!
Let's look at an example to break it down. The film Speed Racer is kind of amazing. It's a big, beautiful, cartoonish movie about a guy whose name is actually Speed Racer. But the film's standout moment is the climax. Because this is a racing movie, the audience has certain expectations for the ending, specifically winning a race. That's the one chord. That's the expected resolution. During the final race for all the marbles, Speed's car breaks down. Speed is sitting in a dead car with the rest of the racers whizzing by, and at this moment, the audience feels like there is no hope. They feel very far away from the one chord. But then Speed closes his eyes, ignores the technical problem, and spiritually communes with his vehicle. Because that's the kind of movie this is. He figures it out and he's back on track, but he's at the back of the group. There's less than 2 laps to go. The movie could do the work of showing how Speed Racer overtakes, but instead the film gets interior. It focuses on Speed himself, on his passion, his family, and his love of the sport. It presents a series of clips of people talking to Speed about the importance of loving what you do, not for any trophy or money, but for the love of the game. It feels awesome to watch the crowd lose their minds, and the visuals become impressionistic as the music swells. It feels like a victory lap. But let's look behind the clock for a moment. What this scene is really doing is quickly pulling the threads of Speed's internal conflict, and by flashing them on screen, the screenwriters are connecting his internal conflict with the external conflict. So when Speed crosses the finish line, you don't just feel like he's resolved the must-go-fast conflict, he has resolved every single conflict that any character in this movie has ever faced. Possibly every conflict in the world with this one moment. And then the writers smartly extend the moment of his victory and spread the jubilation out across a dozen characters so the audience can really take a bath in the moment of final triumph. Now, catharsis doesn't always manifest in positive emotions. Sometimes catharsis is sad or painful or terrifying. Let's take a look at an example. Duet is an episode of Deep Space Nine, and I'm about to spoil it. If you have not seen Duet, you should, right now. Go watch it. It's probably the best island episode I've ever seen. You don't need to watch the rest of the show. It's excellent. Go find whatever streaming platform Deep Space Nine is on, get a 1-week trial, watch it right now. I'll wait. Hey, while we're waiting, subscribe. Okay, if you're still here, it's because you've seen the episode or you're a sicko who loves spoilers. Let's talk about how it generates catharsis. First, we have the conflict. Maritza arrives at Deep Space Nine claiming to be an ordinary file clerk. Kira suspects that he is Gul Darhe'el, a mass murderer who ran a death camp. Kira was a freedom fighter who liberated this camp, so she really does not like Gul Darhe'el. She wants to prove that Maritza is Darhe'el, and she wants to see him punished for his crimes. We can call this the root chord. This is what the audience want to see happen. As the story unfolds, it progresses on 2 tracks. First, obstacles are stacked against Major Kira, making it harder and harder to prove that Maritza is Darhe'el and thus punish him. Second, Maritza, while insisting his innocence, is nonetheless kind of a dick. And so the audience wants more and more from Maritza to be punished, while also feeling like it's less and less likely as the story progresses. The band is stretching. Tension is being generated. Eventually, Kira discovers that this isn't Darhe'el, which feels just like another obstacle in the way of the inevitable resolution where this villainous mastermind gets his comeuppance. But instead, we get this moment.
You're Maritza, aren't you?
You mistake me for that bug. That whimpering nothing. Oh, you stupid Bajoran girl, don't you know who I am? I'm your nemesis. I'm your nightmare. I'm the Butcher of Galatep.
The Butcher of Galatep died 6 years ago. You're Eamon Maritza, his filing clerk.
That's not true. I am alive. I'll always be alive. It's Maritza who's dead. Maritza, who was good for nothing but cowering under his bunk and weeping like a woman. Who every night covered his ears because he couldn't bear to hear the screaming for mercy of the Bajorans. Cover my ears every night. I couldn't bear to hear those horrible screams.
It gets me every time. It's a brilliantly acted scene, but it's also a really cleverly written moment for how it develops and then produces catharsis. It is in this exact moment that every single obstacle that stood in the way of Kira finding the truth is resolved. She finds out who he is, and she even gets his confession. The audience's desire to see the villain brought low, we get it. We get everything we wanted, and yet it's surprising. You weren't prepared for how he would react, and thus you're not prepared for how you feel, despite anticipating it for the whole episode. It is notable that this movie is marrying the moment of resolving the conflict with Maritza's emotional breakdown. That way there is a release of emotions at the exact same time that there is a release of narrative tension. And that's the secret to catharsis. It's not about feeling good, it's about feeling. It is how a story gives you permission to feel powerful emotions that you would otherwise try to suppress. Now, so far I've been talking about catharsis that occurs at the end of the story, but that is not always how it's done. Sometimes catharsis occurs in the middle of the story, when a story resolves a lot of its conflicts, but not all of them, still generating that profound feeling. Cabin in the Woods is a movie about horror movies. It tells the story of a group of college students who go to visit a cabin in the woods and then experience a pretty bog-standard slasher film. Only the monsters they are facing is the product of a sophisticated company that is sacrificing these teens to an elder god. The film is brilliant, filled with lots of wonderful little details that reference classic slasher films, but that also fit very cleanly into the narrative's world building. The two surviving heroes manage to sneak into the base that is conducting this sacrifice and find a trove of horrific monsters in a sort of vault beneath the ground. They realize what's going on behind the scenes. Then soldiers from the base corner them, and when it seems like they've got no way out, they realize they can release this monster vault. So they do. This moment is very satisfying when the monsters finally break free and attack all the company soldiers. And importantly, it doesn't resolve all of the conflict of the movie, just some of them. As for the emotion of the scene, there's no triumph or cheering crowds or even weeping emotional breakdowns. The catharsis emerges from the innate satisfaction of karmic justice. Seeing these people who were so willing to sacrifice these sexy teens just a moment ago get a taste of their own medicine is really satisfying to watch. It's something biological, it's in our nature. It's why the Germans invented the word Schadenfreude. Before we had language, we enjoyed watching someone we don't like slip on a banana peel. Much like with our other examples, after the monsters are released, the movie takes a good amount of time to revel in the catharsis, to show these nasty creatures destroying the facility. And this is important, to let the audience ride the high as long as possible. We will eventually get bored, and so the movie eventually moves on, setting up new conflicts and new tension based on the new status quo. As we've seen, catharsis can be employed in a lot of different ways, at a lot of different moments in the story, and to produce a lot of different feelings. But I want to focus on some stories that I think don't do catharsis very well. Let's take a look at an example. Bugonia tells the story of a ruthless big pharma executive, Michelle, who gets kidnapped by the mentally unstable Teddy, who is convinced that she is an alien. So that's her conflict. Michelle wants to escape, but she must overcome the obstacle of Teddy. As the movie progresses, Michelle attempts different tactics to try to escape her imprisonment. She negotiates, she placates, she empathizes, she bargains, and each time she makes progress, Teddy responds. He's no dummy. The obstacles mount, and it seems very likely that she'll never get away. This generates tension. This movie creates a really interesting headspace, because as Michelle tries these new tactics, we can't help but root for her. And yet, we know she's a bad person. By centering her in the story and making her the active protagonist, the film tricks us into rooting for a bad person, which is a neat trick. Then there's the ending. Michelle takes Teddy to her office. At this point, Michelle has expertly leveraged Teddy's delusions against him, playing into his conspiracy theory mania, to convince him that if he steps into her closet, he'll be teleported to her alien ship. But to keep the tension high, he's got a bomb strapped to his chest. When he steps inside the teleporter, we are on the edge of our seat. Well, Teddy blows up, and I guess the bomb isn't big enough, so it doesn't actually hurt anyone except for him, and that's it. Conflict over. It's not satisfying at all. There's no catharsis. It's like letting all the air out of a balloon instead of popping it. And worst of all, the movie doesn't even let the audience spend any time feeling Michelle's relief or maybe even pity over Teddy's death. It immediately moves on to another plot beat, where she returns to her alien mothership, and thereby negates every interesting, clever tactic she made leading up to the end. It's really disappointing to me because in my mind, I can see the version of this ending that would have really worked. If Teddy had gotten into the closet and then Michelle had just booked it out of that office as fast as she could, ignoring all of her coworkers as they desperately ask her what's going on, running down the stairs and just getting out of the building just in time before everything explodes, that would have been great, because the audience would have intrinsically been on her side. You're rooting for someone as they are running away from an explosion, despite the fact that she's a bad person and she's letting everyone else die to save herself. It plays in the space that the movie has been expertly navigating, using narrative conventions to get us on the side of Michelle, no matter how bad a person she is. You could argue that our capacity for fiction is what defines us as humans. It's what separates us from every other animal on Earth. And when you experience good fiction, you experience not just the culmination of centuries of cultural development, but also a biological reaction. Your body is invested. Your body is designed to be invested. So when you see the hero finally achieve the victory they have been desperate for in the final moments of their journey, the catharsis that you feel is proof that you are human. Proof that you have empathy, because that's what stories are. They are So get in the comments, let me know what's a catharsis that you felt the deepest. Please like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. I will see you next week. Thank you for watching.